Now, there's a way to help you remember this. First of all, this is abbreviation for sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. There's an abbreviation you can use to help you remember. SOHCAHTOA. So what does sine mean? What is cosine? Tangent? Good. Okay, so let's go through and do these. Now, this is a traditional or typical right triangle that you'll see drawings of. And this is a right triangle, and it has angles A, B, C. Notice that the notation being used here has the angles with capital letters, and it has the sides with lowercase letters. And notice that the sides are opposite the angles with the same letter. That's important to notice. Okay? So side A is lowercase a across from angle A, which has a capital A. Side B is lowercase b, which is across from angle B. And side C is lowercase c across from right angle, uppercase C. Does anybody recognize the lowercase a, b, c from anywhere? Excellent. Pythagorean theorem. That's right. A squared plus b squared equals c squared with lowercase a, b, c comes from this. C is always the hypotenuse. Capital C is always your right angle. When we're referencing angles to work with our ratios, we only reference angles A and B. We never reference the right angle. So when we find the sine of A or the cosine of the tangent, we're finding that at angle A, or we can find it at angle B, but we'll never find it at angle C. We never find it at the right angle. It's always going to be two acute angles. Okay? So let's start. So sine of angle A, here's angle A up at the top. We know it's opposite over hypotenuse, so what letters would that be? Give me the ratio. Michael? Excellent. And it will always be that. The sine of A is always A over C because A is always the side opposite A, and C is always the hypotenuse. Right? And what about cosine of A? Excellent. B is always the side adjacent to A, so this will always be B over C, and C is always your hypotenuse. Tangent of A.
A over B.
A over B. A is always opposite A, and B is always adjacent to A. Okay, let's try sine of angle B. So now we're looking at angle B instead of angle A. What's sine of angle B? Side opposite. Excellent. B over C. That's right. Excellent. So side opposite B over the hypotenuse, which is always C. What's cosine of angle B? That's right. Excellent. We're looking at angle B, and so the side adjacent to angle B is side A, and the hypotenuse is always side C. What's tangent to angle B?
B over A.
That's right, B over A. We know that side B is across from angle B, and side A is adjacent to angle B.
Yeah.
This is your classic 3, 4, 5 right triangle. We learned that 3 squared is what? 4 squared is? 9 plus 16? We use this to prove what? The Pythagorean theorem. And as a matter of fact, anytime you have a triangle that is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, you automatically know that it's a right triangle. So if the legs are 3 and 4 and the hypotenuse is 5, you know it's a right triangle. And the hypotenuse is going to be 5 because it's the longer side, right? So what's the sine of angle A?
3 over 5.
We're looking at angle A, we're looking at opposite. over hypotenuse, which is 5. What is the cosine of angle A? Again, we're focusing on angle A here. What's the cosine? 4 is adjacent over 5, which is your hypotenuse. Good. What is the tangent of angle A? Good. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, so it's 3 over 4. Let's do angle B now. So we're going to switch to angle B from angle A. What is sine of angle B?
4.
Right, that's opposite over hypotenuse. What is cosine of angle B? Right. Angle B, the adjacent angle is the adjacent side is 3, and the hypotenuse is 5. Now let's look at the tangent for angle B.
3 over 4.
Right, the adjacent side is 3, and the opposite
That's 3.
is 4 over 3. Opposite over adjacent.
Oh.
Opposite always goes on top. 4 over 3 for tangent of B. How are we going to find the hypotenuse in this problem? What do you think? Akash? That's right, Pythagorean theorem. Does anybody know it? Anybody do it real fast?
Oh. Well, 6 squared plus 6.
Oh, I want the answer.
10.
10.
I knew that.
You guys have actually had this problem a bunch of times. You recognize it? Yeah, it's 36 plus 64 is 100. 30 of 100 is 10. So we are using the Pythagorean theorem. All right, so let's go through and review real quick. What is the length of the side opposite 30? So we're not actually doing the ratios now. We're just practicing these words. 8 is opposite 30. That's right. What is the side adjacent to 30?
6.
6 is correct. What is the hypotenuse when you're dealing with either one of these, with any of the angles here? What's the hypotenuse?
10.
10. Good. So we can actually put that for both of these. What is the opposite 60 degrees?
6.
Good. What is adjacent to 60 degrees? 8. Good. All right, moving right along, we have another one to do. Okay, so everybody be ready. When I call you, you should come up here and say the answer as you're walking. Sine of 30 degrees. And you need to say it in simplest form too.
4 over 5.
Let's see, is he right? Very good, all right. Cosine of 60 degrees. Cosine of 60 degrees.
4 over 7.
So cosine of 60 degrees, we have 60 degrees. Cosine is going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 4 over 5. Sine of 60 degrees.
That would be B over.
Is that right?
No. Oh, wait, no, not 3. 3 over 5.
Good job, good catch. 3 over 5 because it's opposite of 60 is 6. And hypotenuse is 10 and we simplify it. Tan of 30 degrees.
Eight over 6.
Is she right?
Or actually, 4 over 3.
Is she right, everybody?
Yeah.
See what the magic board tells her. Okay. So tan of 30 degrees, the opposite of 30 is 8, and the adjacent is 6, and that's 4/3. You leave it improper, by the way. Leave your fractions improper. Tangent of 60 degrees. Ava?
3/4.
Is she right?
Yes.
See board says. And who wants to do cosine of 30?
No, it's 4
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, right.
3/4 is correct. Kevin?
Yes.
Okay, is he right? Is cosine of 30 3/5?
Yes.
Good job. I'm going to show you guys a couple of tricks for memorizing. So first, there's SOHCAHTOA. Can we do that? Okay. So S stands for
Sine.
sine, which is,
Opposite of hypotenuse.
and then C stands for, which is, T is, good. So SOHCAHTOA is one way you can remember it. I had a girl this morning, she said, I can't remember SOHCAHTOA. So she said, the one I remember is ooh, ah, ooh, ah. And that's how she remembers it. I'll show you how I remember it. We didn't have cute little ways to remember it. I learned this in college, believe it or not. We didn't have cute little ways to remember it in college, so this is how I remembered it. I saw it this way, as sine was like my main, these are actually trig ratios, but they're also called trig functions, as we'll learn tomorrow. Sine was my main trig function, okay? And so the letter across from the angle that you're working with is always that same letter, right? You always kind of thought of it as sine goes with opposite, because opposite's always the same letter. It's kind of your main deal, you know? So I have opposite with sine, because that's the first one, that's the main one. And it's always over hypotenuse, right? And then cosine is not as important as sine, right? It's cosine. And so adjacent is the other leg. The two legs are opposite and adjacent, right? So the not as important leg is the other one that doesn't have the same letter, right? And then it's going to be over hypotenuse, because everything's always over hypotenuse until you get to tangent, which doesn't have anything to do with sine or cosine. Those are two different words, right? So cosine and cosine have sine, right? Then you get to tangent, and tangent doesn't have hypotenuse in it at all, but it does have opposite over adjacent in that order, the same order as if you do sine first and cosine second. May not make any sense to you. And that's a lot of words for the way I thought about it. I didn't really put all those words to it. That's just kind of how I thought about it. So those are some tips. You learn it however you want to, whatever works for you. Let's see what you guys can remember. What is sine? Everybody. What is cosine? And what is tangent?